Hey friends, I just want to share with you a few strategies that I personally have used over the years and tweaked along the way in order to maximize physical health and fitness. Now, instead of thinking about meal prep or food prep, I want you to think about day prep, how to unlock your day. Many of us over a period of time have just kind of gotten used to our schedules or in general habits. Now, whether you're looking at it from a standpoint of maximizing your productivity as far as how you think, how you focus, and how productive you are at work, maybe it's more about performance or just in general your day-to-day activities. Some people like to meal prep. Now, that's not bad, but in order to actually improve your overall situation, I want you to think a little bit deeper. Instead of just thinking about the meals, what are you doing specifically throughout the day in order to get the most out of your day? So when I started thinking about this as a young kid, I'll kind of share a little bit of the story, but I remember growing up a small town in Texas on a farm, and there were a lot of situations where we'd go to school and I just couldn't eat the food. Now, I'd say that I couldn't eat the food because I wasn't hungry. I was always hungry, but every time I ate the food, I just felt horrible. So I started to learn at a young age that whatever I put in my body would also affect how I felt, whether it was the headaches and migraines, in general, my energy levels, or even performance when it came to working out and playing athletics. Now, fast forward over the years, I've intentionally gotten a lot better as far as the quality of foods, whether it's snacks, the meals I've eaten, and just in general, the timing. So I want to jump into that so you have a little bit better understanding when it comes to unlocking your day and getting the most out of your day versus just thinking about meal prepping. Because again, meal prepping isn't bad, but at the end of the day, if you're not specific on whether it's timing of certain things, in general, the quality of it, and also when you make your meal, because sometimes when we have meal prep, we make extended meals for the week, and maybe they're sitting out for a period of time and they develop what's called histamines that increase the amount of inflammation throughout the body. So we want to be a little bit more diligent when we're thinking about meal prep, food prep, but in general, as a whole, what are you doing to get the most out of your day? So I started looking back at, over the years of what I was doing as far as whether it was work related, whether it was performance related as far as workouts, and started to always be intentional about the timing of certain things to get the most out of my day. So, obviously developing great habits, waking up, what I was putting in my mind, different music, whether it's listening to audio, maybe a certain podcast now. Things have definitely changed over the years as far as the technology goes. So it kind of develops into our certain habits of what we're actually plugging into. So as you always get your state or your state of mind set for success for that day. So I just want to share a few things here because I think this is really important. So whether you're in a phase of what we call intermittent fasting, trying to, I would say like in a way of like weight loss or more for energy, anti-aging, maybe you're just in a general of, you got a physical job, you need that energy throughout the day, whatever the situation is will depend on the timing that you're going to take certain foods. I particularly, I'm not trying to either gain a certain amount of weight or lose a certain amount of weight. It's more for the anti-aging, just in general, the energy feel, but also just in order to get the best health. And so what I like to do is a mix of intermittent fasting, which is going to be more definitely a certain fats in the morning that won't kick the fast out of, or in general, like break the fast. Or, when we start thinking about, what is it we're using it for? Is it maybe so we ate heavy meal the day before, maybe went and ate out, and we're kind of in that detox phase. So however you look at that point, you may be in that fasting period. Or, your goal may be to lose weight. So again, you have to structure it depending on your result that you're looking for. Don't just go off what I'm doing, but also be intentional with what you want. And it also may determine your lifestyle, what kind of activity you're involved in, how physical, or just in general your age. So again, always be intentional with what your end result is that you're looking for. And so I'll share a few things with what I do. So I'll usually start the day with a little bit of intermittent fasting, and then I'll move into a period of protein load with a little bit of fats because they're extended on quality fats. Now I want to preface that with, because a lot of people don't think about this, but it's better to think about quality versus quantity, because a lot of people may be going out there spending either tons of money, but also a lot of time eating these certain foods or prepping these foods and thinking that they're actually doing good, getting more protein, when in reality is they're actually loading a lot more toxins or just in general ineffective ingredients into the body. And so once you understand the game that we're playing here, what we call biohacking, you're going to be a lot more effective and efficient with the result that you're getting when you understand, just in general how the body works. For example, I'll give you a quick example. A lot of times you think just eating protein is the exact number of protein that you're getting. Well, in reality, for example, I'll take as far as a food source, well, egg being the highest amount that will break down, but also has to, when it breaks down into the body as far as the proteins, into amino acids, and then it has to rebuild itself back up. Well, what ends up happening is during that rebuild phase, a lot of the foods that people are eating or even the supplements that they're taking, even though it breaks down the body, does it really rebuild back up to what you're wanting and the purpose that it's for. Well, as far as food sources go, the egg will be the highest here, and you're going to get about 52% on that rebuild phase when it comes back into rebuilding the protein that you're looking for. So in reality is, yes, that's why it's always kind of pushing a way of taking in more protein, because in reality, we don't really get as much protein as we think, even though we're eating sources of a lot of protein because of actually how much is broken down and then rebuilt back up. So that's one case scenario. So again, I always say is like, we don't think about it a lot of times though, but trying to get this high amounts of protein in, people are consuming a lot of toxic, whether ingredients, whether it's from their shake or just in general, maybe the foods that they're eating, and they're buying conventional meats or just in general low quality food. You're always going to get way more out of it. Don't want to get too caught up in the ratios as far as the numbers right now, because again, it's all about the quality and what your body's actually going to receive. And so we don't want to load with a bunch of toxins, because then that actually is counter-effective to the result that you're looking for. So that's one part. So again, whether or not you're doing the intermittent fasting or just in general, maybe you're in that phase that you're doing a lot of activity, you're an athlete, or maybe you're young and you're still growing, or just in general, maybe you're the aging process where you're considering sarcopenia, loss of muscle mass. You want to keep that lean muscle mass. Longevity, health span is based off how much muscle mass we can keep. So you don't want to get in a phase of too much intermittent fasting, because I'll be honest, I've done that before where I did it too long and you end up losing too much muscle mass. So it's kind of that cycling phase, but on again, how you're using it, whether it's for detox, whether it's weight loss, anti-aging, you're going to have to play that game. And or maybe here and there as a cycle, depending on what you ate the night before, maybe you had a few drinks, whatever the situation was, where you're trying to be intentional with what you get out of the actual product or result that you're looking for. So jumping back in. So now when we say unlock your day, how do you maximize your day? Whether again, it's for productivity, for energy, for performance, as far as working out, or just in general for recovery. So what I'm going to look into is I'll share a few things here, and then you can kind of like, think about it on your own. Like, what are you doing for success here? So I remember like growing up working in, I would say it's kind of more of a physical setting, outdoors. This was more in high school. And then as I led into all these colleges, still a lot of physical work with college. Didn't quite have the money, obviously. And there was one of those that you kind of had to do your best as far as what you're bringing, whether it's snacks, maybe certain proteins, in general, making my own lunches. And so I got very intentional with what I was bringing to either work or as snacks throughout the day, because I knew how it would make me feel. Not everyone's going to have that story as far as, oh, they feel maybe horrible as far as afterwards, whether it's eating certain foods gave you certain headaches, or maybe lack of food gave you headaches, or maybe it was your blood sugar is up and down to where you felt that lack of energy after eating. So I just got very aware of it. And I think that was good at a young age, because then it maybe be more diligent with the food and we're prepping throughout the day. But it wasn't just the meal preps, it was the day prep and the timing of it. So that was very important, following that circadian rhythm. And so when we think about this in general, is like, your day-to-day job is going to be different. Not everyone can just say, oh, I'm going to go pack my meals for the day and it's going to be that easy. Well, it's not that easy, but at the end of the day, it's worth it, because when we think about it, over the years of what people will do, they'll maybe they're just eating going, and it may be part of work, so you kind of have to kind of play the game of, is this for networking, is it for your job, whatever, where you have to go eat out. There's places and times, so you can be a little bit strategic with that, with around the intermittent fasting, or doing different supplements to detox or take stuff with you, or just choose wisely with the meals you're having, because again, every time you eat out, it's not going to be the healthiest foods, obviously, and it's very hard to get quality foods when you eat out, because the goal of the business is to stay in business of the restaurant, so they're not going to have the best ingredients. So when I was I'd say I was putting together my list, I was being very intentional with the ingredients I had in the morning, whether it was my supplements and or bringing it with me throughout the day for the timing, also for the snacks, for the meals. I'd keep a little fridge with me or where I was at, so I knew that no matter where I worked, fast forward, going from during school and college, always bringing stuff with me, to the point where getting out of school and doing physical therapy, working in different settings, whether it's outpatient hospital, sports teams, you name it, I would always bring something with me. And yeah, you would say that can be complicated, that can be hard, timing things throughout the day, it can be very time consuming, can be costly when it comes to supplements or the quality foods. But here's the reality is, you're going to spend it now, or you're going to spend a lot more later. And when you think about later, the cost later is going to be in your health, because you're not going to really be able to regain back what you had as youth. And if you don't quite understand that, maybe go visit or talk with someone who's been on earth for a little bit longer and see the stuff that they're dealing with health-wise and or aging wise, and they can give you a better description here. I got to see at a young age working in those environments, so I've gotten stories after stories, but also gotten to see what it's done to people with their effects and their health. But now you think about it too, like what are you wanting out of life? Are you going to just constantly get caught in that business to where you say, you know what, this is my life. I'm just always going to be busy, and I just don't have time for that now. And you're just going to keep saying the same thing over and over to the point where you just live that life and it becomes your habit to always be stressed out, have anxiety, which is a lot of time caused by the poor quality food choices that people are choosing. So they kind of get stuck in this I would call it this hole of like this never ending cycle of sickness, disease, inability to sleep good, the quality of sleep, always stressed, anxiety, pain, inflammation. So you'll see this cycle over and over. And I was like, this is crazy. And this is but this is also something dealing with in the healthcare system that I always got to see from my end of it, working as a healthcare provider, where people were just doing the same thing over and over. And I was like, I don't want that. Sure, you don't want that. But at the end of the day, some people get a little bit stuck up here of how do they get out of it. So this is where you're going to be a little bit more intentional with it. It's going to take some work. Yes, it's going to take some effort, some energy on your part. Is it worth it? 100%. If you don't want to deal with all that. So, I see the money that people spend and the time. And even though this may take a little bit of time of prepping for your day or your week, or whatever it is, and or the timing a different thing, it's just like, what is it worth to you? Is when someone inherits a disease or sickness, or they're going to the doctor constantly for medications, injections, trying to figure out the health issue they have, or the limitation in their life, how long they're going to live, the quality of life. A lot of people, when I lived in Florida and people retire, every time they'd say it's like, this is not so much the golden years that they thought of moving to Florida and retiring, because all of a sudden they were going to doctor after doctor, visits after visits, trying to figure out how to regain their health back. And it's just that sometimes when our body gets to a certain point, it's that compound effect, and it's just too late, and you're just in this management mode. And that unfortunately leads to pain medications, injections, and then a lot of surgeries, and then ultimately disease. So it's one of those, again, try to be as intentional as you can now, because it's way easier doing it now, even though you think that it's hard. And I'll be honest, like a lot of times this makes it way easier on your end as far as what you get out of the gym. You don't have to work out as hard. One power play that I've always followed, whether it was with clients for their therapy, whether it was for myself with working out, and I had to learn this after, so many injuries, was, if you really think about it, is our bodies are very, very, I'd say, high achievers. It can overcome so many things until it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it's like, there's so much our body is capable of. Let's put our body to work. Once you put your body to work, this powerful system, let it go to work for you, versus always physically or mentally thinking, I've got to go do it myself and keep beating yourself up. I've learned that with a lot of injuries. I was like, I got to figure out a better way, or else I'm going to, it's going to be misery of this pain, this inflammation, all the surgeries and stuff that I went through as a younger kid, trying to figure this out. And then finally I was like, this is crazy. What am I doing? I'm always, yes, it's good. There's a place and time to work hard. But again, it's not that point where you've got to, not put yourself in a situation where your body can't even do the work. So, real quick, a lot of things I'll do, a lot of times, I'll prep as far as the day, what I'm taking, or even throughout the week. And again, this is not cheap. I'll spend a lot of money on this, but again, you always have to value what your health is. I'll be honest, I've probably spent way more in recovery products, health products, supplements, food than people will spend on their cars, even sometimes a house. And so, again, but that's my value. That's where I place value, is in my health and how I feel. You have to ultimately decide, is your car, is your house, is your shopping bill, whatever it is, the luxury stuff that you're buying to look and feel good at that moment, realistically going to be worth it in the long run, when reality is all that stuff fades, loses value, and it's just more of a liability over a period of time, not an asset. So when I say an asset, a lot of stuff can be a hidden asset because you don't value it, because it's not at the moment bringing you money. Like someone's not there handing you money like at your job. But reality is, if you were able to see the cost of what you were saving now versus in the future, of what it costs for your healthcare and or how you feel and limited lifestyle that you're going to be living, then you would totally put value to it. So, I'll do a mix of different quality protein shakes, different protein bars, because I know that's going to be a huge deal for me, is getting in a certain amount of protein or fat, especially after I break that fast or in the morning, or even as a snack, because I don't want to just put a bunch of junk food in my system. There's different kinds of bars. Sometimes even randomly I'll have an apple, depending on the time of day. You got to be careful with certain fruits, especially American fruits, can be loaded with a lot of sugar. But again, if you're playing the game of either how much fiber they have, how you're mixing with certain fats, you can you can mitigate the certain amount of breakdown of the blood glucose levels. So that it just means how much of a spike you're going to have in the body that causes inflammation. Of course, I'm always doing a quality probiotic. I need to, that's probably one of the biggest power plays for a lot of people is understanding your probiotics that you're putting in your system and the prebiotics that actually feed it, because those are what control the gut and sends out signals communicating with your body. There's different amino acids that you can take throughout the day that are going to give you that quality, what I talked about earlier in the video, as far as when proteins or food sources, we break it down, it's got to rebuild itself back up, and want to maximize that. And again, there's just different things from different quality electrolytes, or different things that also involve some detoxers into the body. So again, playing that game throughout the day of what can I do, not just to detox the body, or sorry, not just to build the body back up, but also to mitigate the toxins that are getting into my system. Whether it's from the food, from the drinks, from the air we breathe. There's a lot of things that we call toxic to the body that we don't realize that end up slowing our system down. And then again, there's different things that maybe need more energy. Quality, I would say, like coffees, organic coffee with cordyceps, something that's going to trigger the brain to either activate at a different level, whether it's to focus, have more clarity, and just in general be inspired when it comes to your day, have that energy, because that's what you need. And then, you got to be smart about the qualities of water that you're drinking. So I'll usually take a little bit of a bag with me, depending on what I'm taking supplement-wise. But, there's a mix of things. And again, it's got to go back to the result. What are you looking for? What's going to give you the most and maximize your day? Whether, again, going back to the first things we talked about, your energy, your productivity, how are you going to set your brain up for the day to get the stuff that you need to do? How are you going to set your meals, your snacks up, the preparation throughout the day to time it so that you have the energy sources broken down? Remember, fats, proteins, carbs all break down into energy, but at different speeds. Typically, your fat's going to take longer to break down, but also more sustained energy throughout the day, so you feel more satiety as far as fullness. Then the next is going to be protein, and then the next is going to be carbs. And that's where if you have too many carbs, which most people do, they end up seeing those spikes up and down, especially when you have carbs early in the morning. And probably when that's not a great thing unless you just really have a lot of physical activity or mental activity going that you really need that right away. But you're going to have those spikes, especially in blood sugar levels, that are going to affect how you feel, how you perform, but also your health long term. So you want to be careful with that. And then we're thinking about it too as far as our recovery. So I'm always being intentional at the timing of certain food, the quality of the food, but also just in general the amount of the food, because how long it's going to break down, when it's going to break down, and when am I going to need to be using this, whether it's for physical activity for work, whether it's my workout, just in general, and or the timing when it comes to the end of the day, and also for sleeping, relaxation. So again, sleep is the most powerful recovery tool that you can have. How are you going to maximize your day to get the most out of your sleep? So it doesn't just go from what you take in the morning, starting your day, but also how you end your day. So again, being smart, be strategic when it comes to what you're putting in your body to unlock your day, to maximize your overall state of health, your human function, and performance.